Hi everybody, welcome to Geeks Research and Explain. I'm your host David Walker. This first episode, the format's going to be just a bit different than what we planned for the future. Mostly going to be featuring our interview with Mads Kristensen.
Yeah, let's pull it up.
Hi, this is David Walker here with Mads Kristensen. Hopefully that is pronounced correctly.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about why you're here today.
Well, I'm here to show off some new bits that we have in Visual Studio 2015 in the CDP 6 that came out like a couple of weeks ago. First of all, to show off, like what are we working on, what are the new tooling capabilities coming out for web developers in particular, and hopefully get some feedback because we're not done building Visual Studio, so this is sort of early feedback opportunity for us as well. Show some early bits like beta, some of it even like alpha stage bits, and get some feedback. And so far, I think people have been digging it pretty well, so I'm pretty happy about that.
So I'm giving my presentation tomorrow on multi-threaded debugging in Visual Studio 2015.
Yep.
And I am really enjoying the new features in 2015.
Yeah, it's going to be a major release. So that's been one of the sort of the things we've heard with all the frequent updates that Visual Studio is doing with quarterly updates is what is the difference between like the last update to Visual Studio 2013 and then the new Visual Studio 2015, because they might be coming out like at the similar time frame. So is there really that much new in 2015? Mm-hmm. And you know, there certainly is. Like, it is not just a new update. It really is a brand new version, and there's a lot of new stuff there. And it's basically all over the different feature sets we have. It's not just for web, which is my thing is the web tooling in Visual Studio, but all sort of stuff for C#, all sorts of stuff for debugging and profiling and code navigation and JavaScript, and like all over the place. There's a lot of new cool features, Cordova, universal apps, and so on. Like it really is a huge step forward.
Yeah, our team is using 2013. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm curious. Being a developer, I'm curious what developers on your team, how they may differ from somebody who develops business apps or something like that.
Yeah.
Our team being between 2 and 8 people. How that's different from a team at Microsoft or something?
I don't think it's that different at all. There's a difference in potentially the size, right? Microsoft is a huge company, and so that comes with a lot of different things to be aware of. But as you know, developers writing code for Visual Studio versus developers writing code for what your team is working on, they're probably doing the same things, right? It's C#, a little bit of C++ probably, and that's how we build Visual Studio, right? SAML. And so if you're a good C# developer or SAML developer, you'll probably fit in very well in Visual Studio team or in Microsoft in general. So I don't think there are any differences. There could be some though, and that's for instance, take my team. We build the web tooling. So we build, let's say, the CSS editor in Visual Studio for writing style sheets, right? The people who build that, the developers that build that editor in Visual Studio, they write that in C#. They don't write it in CSS, obviously. Right? So you can end up writing features where you're not the target audience. So a lot of times when you see, like, especially in the startup space, you're building a product that you want to be the consumer of yourself, there's a little potential difference here. But that's not exclusive to Microsoft. You see that everywhere. But that's just one thing that I've noticed because I'm a web developer, and now my team is building something that's primarily using C# and C++. So that's the only thing I can think of that might be different from what people are doing today. But if you're a good developer, you're a good developer, and you would fit in Microsoft. Yeah.
So technology-wise, what are you passionate about?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have to be what you're working on.
Yeah.
What's exciting to you?
Well, I think just the web in general is really exciting right now because it's moving so fast, and the promise of the new web platform coming out with web components, which we kind of saw. There are some polyfills right now. Polymer is a library that you can use to kind of get an early start to building web components. There are some similarities to Angular directives if you're using AngularJS, for instance. and React components, and we're seeing more of these frameworks starting to kind of mimic what the next generation of the web platform will be. But it's not out yet, right? The web platform is not like, it doesn't have a good browser support yet, so you can't necessarily just go ahead and use it. We still need stuff like HTTP2 to be able to download a lot of resources at the same time in a more optimal way for performance reasons and so on. But it's getting there, and it's getting there fast. And so I think we're going to see a shift in how we're going to write our web properties. A lot of it is going to be a lot more componentized than we've been doing so far. Like if you're a web forms developer, for instance, you're used to being able to componentize your controls. And you can put them on NuGet, or you can share them internally and use them in multiple different projects. We don't really have that in the same level of components for writing websites using JavaScript, CSS, and HTML, for instance, because you're literally 3 different files: one HTML file, one CSS, and one JavaScript file. So, and they probably go in different folders. So we don't have like this one place, like this one component anymore. It's more like a spread out kind of thing. And so I think the way that we're going to be able to componentize our websites more to maybe what web forms developers have been used to in the past is very, very interesting. And I think I'm a tooling guy. I build tooling for Visual Studio. I think that has some really, really awesome challenges, and I can't wait till I have to start doing that. And hopefully we're going to start looking at bringing web component support into Visual Studio pretty soon. And so there's a lot of different things that we need to do. Like there's a lot of different aspects to that, basically. And so, but we're taking them one by one, and I'm looking very much forward to that, because that is going to be a new web, and it's going to change the way we develop. So as I said, we see it already today with Angular. Kind of does something similar, but what about package management, componentization, and so on? We haven't really solved that in a good way yet. JSPM is a package manager for JavaScript that's coming out. That's very interesting. But it's for JavaScript. What about CSS? What about HTML? How can we bridge the gaps here? And so I think there's a huge challenge, and I think the first one that comes out with a good solution is hopefully me.
Well, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
So is there anything else that you want to share with both of our viewers?
I think definitely look out for Visual Studio 2015 and see what it can do. It is not just an update on 2013. There really is a lot of new cool things. We're bringing in new ecosystems that already are huge out there for new package managers like Bower and NPM, as well as task runners like Grunt and Gulp. So these are traditionally tools that you will not associate with Visual Studio, and oftentimes we see that if you're a Visual Studio user and you go to angularjs.org to download, or .com to download Angular, it will say, here's how to install it using Bower. And as a Visual Studio user, you look at that and say, okay, that doesn't apply to me. But now it does. Right? So now it does. Now you can totally party on Bower and NPM, and there is no longer sort of these two separate worlds, like the Visual Studio world and the outside world, or whatever you want to call it. We're trying to bridge that thing by making these tools first-class citizens in Visual Studio, and with them come huge ecosystems of packages and plugins and runners and test frameworks, all sorts of things that has been proven and tested over time. And so you now have access to all those tools, and that is super exciting for me. And I think it's not as scary as it sounds. You know, it runs on Node.js, and does that mean that now I have to install Node and have to be able to write everything in JavaScript? It totally does not. Right? Visual Studio abstracts that away. It is Node that runs it underneath, but you don't have to know. Right? It's invisible to you if you choose to make it invisible. It's invisible by default, I will say. But everything in the command line lights up just the way it would if you didn't have Visual Studio but was still using those tools. Let's say you were on a Mac sitting in Sublime and you were using these tools, you would use the command line. Like, that still works. You still get all that fidelity you did from the command line. It's just the Visual Studio sits on top of it and kind of puts all those different pieces into a Visual Studio-like workflow. And so you don't have to drop down to the command line if you don't want to, but you still get the exact same capabilities as people that are using these tools today without Visual Studio. So that's really exciting, and I think I'm really happy to see us bridging that gap and kind of getting rid of us and them. Right? That notion of us and them kind of disappears here. And that's been in the mind share of a lot of people for a long time, the notion of us and them. And I hope that 2015 is going to be the release where we're finally getting rid of it. So give it a try.
Yeah, I'm already getting that feeling. The feeling of being able to, within Visual Studio 2015, I'm not just locked into being a Microsoft developer.
Exactly. And with ASP.NET 5 now being cross-plat, you can build an ASP.NET website on a Mac using Sublime, and you can run it on a Mac or Ubuntu or whatever you...
But can I run it on my Raspberry Pi?
Yes.
But can I run it on my current Raspberry Pi?
Yep, if you can run .NET, then you can run ASP.NET 5. Yep, exactly.
So now I can build my hosting center in a box.
Yes, that would be awesome. You should blog about that.
Okay. Well, it was really good seeing you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I'm looking forward to hearing more about Visual Studio 2015.